Good morning, students. Welcome to the YouTube channel of Little Flower School, Raptinagar. I am Amit Kumar, your computer science teacher, and this video lecture is your 22nd video lecture for class 12th A and 12th B. As I told you in my previous lecture, that in the next lecture we will see the practical aspects of the topic that we have discussed in the previous lecture. So today I will show you some programs and some ways through which we will understand those theoretical topics that we have studied in the previous lecture. So let's see what are the topics that we are going to see today. The first topic that we will discuss is about class and objects. So I have told you that objects are the real life entities on which we made the program, and classes are the blueprint of those objects, where the prototype of the objects are decided. So today we will take an example of account, the same account that we have in banks. Okay, so we know if we consider bank as an object, there would be some certain characteristics and behavior of an account. So every account has an account ID, every account has an account holder, every account has some balance in it. So these are the various characteristics of the account. Okay, you can consider some more characteristics like last transaction or amount transacted last time. So whatsoever, there can be different other characteristics and some behaviors like withdraw amount or deposit amount or show balance. Okay, so today we are going to consider account as an object, and we will define all the characteristics and behavior of account object in a class. So today we will first make a class, then an object, and then we will perform these things in it. So after that we will understand various object oriented programming principles as well as access specifiers, static memory allocation and dynamic memory allocation, static data members and static member methods, along with method overloading in today's lecture. So without wasting any time further, let's proceed and let's create a class account. So you can see I have created this project, and here I have created an account class. Now inside this account class I will define the characteristics and behavior of the account. So first of all, we have to decide what are the various characteristics that we will work in this program or in this project, right? So the various characteristics that I am going to use in this program are, first of all, I will provide an account number or account ID, whichever you like. So I am treating it as let's treat it as integer. So account number. Then we need some name for the account holder. So I have created a string variable name, and similarly there will be some balance. So let's create a double variable for the balance. Okay, now there will be some behaviors which will be performed on the account. So some amount will be deposited. Okay, so what I am going to do, I am creating a method for depositing amount, deposit. Okay, and this will accept some amount, okay, which the user wants to deposit. And similarly I will create a method withdraw, and I will pass some amount which the user or the account holder wants to withdraw from the account. Okay, fine. Now what you can do, for withdrawing you can accept a password also if you want. Okay, if you want you can accept a password as well. So I am not going to create an application or a project right now, so I am keeping it short. One more method I am defining here, display or show balance. Okay, this will show the balance of the account. Okay, fine. So these will be the behaviors on this account object, and these will be the characteristics. Fine. So whenever any object of this class is created, so what do you think what would happen? So a constructor will be called, right? So if any constructor will be called of this class, so I am making the constructor as well as public. So though we have studied a bit about constructors in our class 10th, we have not studied in 12th, but in 10th and 11th we have worked with constructors. So you know what this constructor will do. As soon as the object of the class is created, this constructor will be called. So what I am going to do, I am creating a scanner object. Okay, and I'm going to accept a value, name, etc. from the user, or you can take help of buffer reader as well. So I'm taking input. Okay, so there's a problem with scanner object when you were working in your previous programs in class 10th and 11th. You might have gone through this problem. The problem is whenever you are accepting integer and string and float, that means more than one kind of value with scanner, sometimes it don't accepts value from the user. So I'm suggesting you a solution for it. The simple solution is always accept string from the user. Even if you want to take integer, accept it in form of string, and then with the help of wrapper class convert it into integer. Okay, then it will work very easily. So when the object will be created, I will ask two things from the user. I will ask user name. Okay, I will ask user name. So user name, this I will accept in the name. Okay, name variable is already there, and scanner object I have already created, obj. So next int I will call definitely, next line I will call definitely for the name. And now I want account number as well as balance. So I told you, if you are working with scanner, the best way is always accept string and then convert in the specific type. Like for account number, I have to convert string into integer, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm keeping it next line. Here I will write account number, but I'm going to typecast it, I'm going to parse it into integer. Okay. So this will be the best solution for it. So accept string and convert in the specific type. Similarly, I will do with the balance. Okay, I will ask the amount he want to be in the account. So starting amount. So the amount that he wants to be in the account. Okay, and this time I am going to convert it into double, as the balance is in double. So I will accept it in double variable, that is balance. So as soon as account object is created, these values will be taken from the user and will be assigned in the data members. Fine. Now when deposit is to be done, what we will do, we will just increase the amount, right? So balance plus equals to this amount will be added. Okay. Now we will print also, like rupees this much is deposited. Okay, the rupees AMT is deposited or credited, whatsoever you want, deposited in account. Okay, and we will also print balance. Okay, we will also print the current balance. So we'll copy this and paste it one more time. Sorry, I cut it actually. Paste it now, and here rupees balance is balance amount, Okay, similarly while withdrawing we will do the same, but while withdrawing we have to do one more thing. Okay, we have to check whether he is allowed to withdraw that much amount or not, because maybe possible user will enter an amount which is greater than the balance. Okay, if amount is greater than balance, then of course we will not withdraw and we will print an error over there. Okay, so we will simply print an error here, like that much amount not available. Okay, error, can't withdraw. Okay, can't withdraw, and then that amount AMT not available, or we can simply print balance not available. Okay, whatsoever. I'm just making it more interactive. Now if this amount is less than the balance or even equals to the balance, what we will do, a bit like we have done in deposit, like so I have copied it, but one thing we will do, we will not increment the balance, we will actually decrease the balance. Okay, we will reduce the balance. So amount is withdrawn from account and this is our balance. So this is what will happen with the withdraw and with the deposit, and of course when the object is created. So first of all, how we made this program? So first of all, we decided about the object, which object we will work with, and then we decided about the various characteristics of the object. We created data members for the characteristic, then we decided about the behaviors, and then within each behavior we performed the task whichever we wanted to, and then after that, okay, up to that only we have done till now. So after that we will create an object of this class and we will call corresponding methods. So account number, holder's name, okay, holders name, account holder's name, and then balance amount, okay, balance amount, fine. So account number will be in ACCNO, okay, holder's name will be name variable, and balance will be in balance variable, fine. Hence it's done. So you can see our class is ready with behaviors and characteristics. All that we need to do is create an object of it. So I am creating two objects. So this is the first object, I am naming it as account1, okay, and as you see, as soon as I created the object, it called the constructor and it is asking me the username. So I am entering my name, Amit Kumar, okay, account number 1 2 3 4 5 6, and starting amount, let it be 1000, okay, and you see, as soon as the constructor work is over, object is created. Similarly, I can create one more object, right click on it, click on click on new account, and constructor is called with it, and let it be Ajay Chaudhary, okay, account number 9876566789, okay, bigger one, and let it be 10,000. Okay, so you can see two different amounts over there. If I will right click on it and click on show balance, so it will show me everything about it, account number, holder's name, balance amount, okay. And similarly here, if I will click on show balance on this object, it will show me account number, holder's name, and balance. So you can see both the objects are having common characteristics, right? Both the objects were having common behavior. So these common characteristics and behaviors were defined in the class, and as soon as an object is created, value of the corresponding characteristics of that object will be assigned. So that is known as state of the object. So state of this object, you can see the current state of this object is this one, okay. Now let's see, if I call any behavior, whether state of an object changes. So if I will click on the deposit method, it is asking me to deposit some amount, and let's suppose I have deposited 20,000, okay. So 20,000 is deposited in account, and rupees 21,000 is balance account, balance amount it should be okay, my mistake, I will rectify it. And if I will call on withdraw and I enter 1000, it will show me 1000 is withdrawn from account, and 20,000 is balance. Of course this should be amount, balance amount. And now if I will call the show balance, you can see it will show me the current balance, right? So I have just shown you an example about class, objects, characteristics, and behaviors, and how we create them. Now we have to see various principles of object oriented programming, of course practically. So first of all, we will see encapsulation. So let me show you how we have encapsulated. We have already performed that task. See, each and every member of this class, whether they are the data member or they are the member methods, they all are encapsulated inside one single name known as account, okay. So though I am having the code of the account right now, because I am also having the .java or source code of the file, but if I will provide only the bytecode to someone, then that person will not be able to see the code. Still, if that person is creating an object and right clicking on the object, the person will come to know about the various methods that I am going to use, or the various methods the person can use of the object. Now the person will not be able to know the code behind these methods, as I have not provided him the code, but still the person will be able to call these methods, okay. So the name of the class, the name of the methods, these things are abstracted to the person to whom I have given the class or given the bytecode only. and all the things are encapsulated inside. So it would not be possible for us to abstract few things until unless the rest of the things are encapsulated, right? Now the next two things are inheritance and polymorphism, which we have to see practically. So before I show you inheritance, let me show you polymorphism. I will give you example in the same program, in this program itself, and then I will show you different types of polymorphisms. Actually not the different types of polymorphisms, then I will show you different methods through which you can perform method overloading. Okay, so let's see, let's first create polymorphism here or do method overloading here. As I told you, I can have more than one methods with same name. For example, I am having a show balance method, but suppose I want one more show balance method here. But why I will want one more show balance? Okay, let's see. Suppose there is an option no in ATM's mini statement through which you will come to know about the last transactions that you have made. Suppose I want to save few things also like that. Of course, I would not be able to save last 5 or 10 transactions because I am not doing file handling or database handling over here, and neither I am using any array. But what I am doing, I want to store whether the user have done deposit or withdrawal. So I want to know the last transaction made by the user, whether it was a deposit or it was a withdrawal. And second thing, I want to know the amount in that transaction. So for that I am creating two more variables, right? First variable is amount, okay, and the next variable is a string variable again, and this time it is last t or last only, let it be last. Okay, so what I will do in case if I am in the deposit, right, this would be the last transaction made, so the value of the last variable I will make it deposit. Okay, and another thing is the value of the amount will be equals to AMT. And when I am doing withdrawal and withdrawal take place, so here in the else, the value of the last will be withdrawal, and of course in the amount I will save the last amount. Okay, so I am having two more characteristics here. Last, which will tell whether I have made withdrawal or I have made deposit, the last transaction what it is and how much amount in that transaction. But I will not show it normally. I will create one more show balance method and I will show these things in this method. Okay, but the problem is, okay, now, but the problem is I cannot simply have two methods with same name in the class. Here I have to perform or I have to change the signature of these two methods, and I told you in the theoretical part, right, in the last lecture, like if you haven't gone through the last lecture, let me tell you, if you haven't gone through the last lecture, you can click on the top right corner right now and go to that certain lecture. Okay, now in last lecture I have already told you, if you want to do method overloading, if you want to make more than one methods with same name, you have to change the signature. So here I have to change the signature, right? So how I will change the signature? By changing, there are three ways: by changing number of parameters, by changing order of parameters, by changing type of parameters. So here I am changing number of parameters. I will accept this with a boolean last or boolean last transaction. Okay, let it be last transaction, complete name. So if the value of this last transaction is true, I will tell the last transaction. Otherwise I will not tell the last transaction, right? So what I will do here, I will normally print this thing. So this will be printed always. And in case the last transaction is true, I will print two more things. Now what are those two things? I will print what was the last transaction the user made and how much amount he taken from it. So last transaction and amount in transaction, amount in transaction. So okay, fine. So you can see here I have done polymorphism. Here I have actually overloaded the method by changing the signature, and how I change the signature by changing the number of parameters. Now in this program, if I create an object, let me create one more object, account 1, okay, my name Amit Kumar, account number 12345, and amount, let it be 10,000. Okay, close. Now if I will right click on it, and if I will click on deposit, okay, so let me not deposit anything, let me show the balance right now. Okay, if I say show balance, definitely it will show me the balance. If I will call the show balance, the second method, where I have to specify a boolean value, let me specify true. So you can see last transaction it is showing 12345, amount in, okay, I have not changed the variable, my mistake, I have to run it one more time, logical error. So last transaction will be last and amount in transaction will be amount. We have to run it one more time, sorry guys. So let me create object one more time, and this time again Amit Kumar, 12345, starting amount, let it be 10,000, and object created. Now without withdrawing anything, I am calling show balance along with last transaction true. So you can see last transaction is null and amount in transaction is 0, because till now I haven't made any transaction. So here I can call deposit and I can pass 1000, I can pass 1000 value. Okay, so you can see 1000 is deposited. Okay, I should correct this also. Balance is 11,000, and let me show balance now with true as parameter. So you can see account name this, balance is this, last transaction was deposit and amount in transaction was 1000. Let me make a withdraw. Okay, let me make a withdraw 5000. Okay, done. 6000 is the balance. Now let's see the balance with true. So you can see 12345 Amit Kumar, 6000 is the balance, last transaction was a withdrawal and amount in transaction was 5,000 rupees. So here I have made a bit change in the class, I hope you understood, and just to show you that what is the purpose of method overloading and how you will do that while programming. Now the next topic is inheritance. Though we will study inheritance, we had studied inheritance in class 11th and we will study in this year also. But let me show you a small example of inheritance, just because I want to show you access specifier as well. So suppose there is a class, we will not study inheritance in detail. So I am creating an ABC class, and here in this class I will create few data members and member methods. Okay. So the data members that I am going to create is A, B and C variable, and one member method, public void accept, and here what I will do, I will assign values to A, B and C. A is equals to B is equals to C is equals to 10. So 10 will be assigned in all the variables. Fine. Okay, so accept is created, and these are the members of this class. Now what I am going to do, I am going to create one new class, PQR. Okay, and this PQR is going to inherit ABC. So how I am going to do that? So inside this PQR class, I am going to inherit ABC class. So what will happen? The characteristics of ABC class will be part of PQR. So how to do that? For that, the place where you are writing the class name, just afterwards write extends keyword, extends is a keyword, and write the name of the class which you want to inherit, and that's it. So you can see I compiled it, and you can see this PQR class is inheriting this ABC class, right? So this is how you can inherit a class inside another class. Now we will use this concept to understand access specifiers as well, and that is our next topic to discuss, access specifiers. So now what are access specifiers? Access specifiers are the keywords which are used to specify the scope of any member of a class, and there are three keywords through which we specify 4 access specifiers. So for explaining all of them, okay, I am going to create a package over here, And before that I'm going to delete these two classes. So I'm deleting them, remove, okay, this one also, remove. And I'm going to create a package over here. So right click, new package, and I'm going to provide sample name to this package. So this is a package sample, and now I'm going to create few classes inside this sample. Okay, let's go inside the sample and let's create a class ABC. Now inside this class ABC, when we will go, you will find one statement over there, the first statement, package sample. So I suggest you keep that in your mind whenever you have created a new package, and whenever you are creating a class inside that package, this will be the first statement of the program. So don't delete it, keep it there. And the rest of the codes which are not essential here in this program, I am removing all those codes. Fine. Now in this class I am creating A, B and C object, and you can see right now I am providing it public access specifier. Okay, right now I am providing it public access specifier. So to test that, I am creating a new class over here, and there I will create main method. So ABC main, and inside this main I will create an object of ABC and try to access ABC over there. Okay, fine. And now I will create main method, and here in the main method I will create an object of ABC class, and then I will try to access the data member. So obj.a is equals to 10. Let's see whether we can access that or not. Okay, it's accessible. Let's make it private. Okay, compiled again. Let's go back, let's compile this program. Okay, and as soon as I compiled, one error came. You can click on the error, and the error is A has private access in sample.abc. That means the ABC class is having A as private member, and hence you cannot use it. So if you are having a private member, you cannot access it with the object. If you are having a public member, you can definitely access it. But right now we are only dealing inside a package. Then after we will move outside the package. So let's make it protected now. Compile it again. Okay, and now try to compile it. So it's compiled, compiling done. So if a data member or if a member is protected, you can call them, you can access them with an object of a class, okay, of the same class of course. So we can, if we are having A, B, C as protected, we can definitely call them with the object, of course, inside the same package. Now the last one, let's keep it default. Of course, if public is accessible, protected is accessible, I hope, and of course default is accessible. So you can see all the public, private and default members, they can be accessed with the object inside the same package. Now let's go outside the package here, and now let's create sample main, and in this sample main I will create an object of that ABC class in the sample package. Of course we have to import the sample package. Let's try to do it without importing first. So I'm creating public static void main string args, and here in the main method I'm creating an object of ABC class, and now you can see cannot find symbol ABC, so you have to import it. So import sample dot asterisk, let's see whether it works. So it's working, or you can write sample dot ABC as well. Fine. So now let's try to call that A and assign value into it, and let's compile. You can see error, it was a default. So if a member, okay, if a member is having default access specifier, then it cannot be accessed through an object outside the package. Let's try it out. Okay, let's try it out with protected let's get back to this program and compile again. Okay, A is not public, cannot be accessed. So if even if it is protected, we cannot access it. Private, of course, privates are not accessible inside the same package, so how it would be accessible outside the package? So public is the only access specifier which allows you to access anything outside a package. So if I will make it public, it would be accessible. Fine. And now you can come here and compile it. Okay, I compiled it. Fine. Let's get back. Let's try to compile it again. Cannot be accessed. It's not public. Okay, let me close this. Okay, now it's compiled. Actually, it was open in the editor. That's why it was not working. So you can see now it is working. So it was public and hence not accessible. So now you can see if a data member is protected or default, you can create its object and you can access it if you are inside the package. But if you are outside the package, only public members are accessible. Now let's talk about inheritance. Okay, so for that I am creating a class here ABC. Now I have created a class ABC. I am creating a class PQR. Okay, and I am going to inherit ABC inside it. So rest of the codes which are not essential, I am going to delete them. Actually, I will have nothing in the PQR. In fact, PQR will be empty, and all that I will do in PQR is I will inherit ABC. Fine, I hope it's done. So now let's see this method. Okay, let's create a method over here. Let's create a public method first of all, except. Okay, we will not do anything inside this method. In fact, we are just understanding it. So ABC is having a except method and I inherited ABC into PQR. So now let's create an object of PQR and right click on it. Now you can see inherited from ABC. So except is inherited from ABC. You can see except is already inherited from ABC. Now let's see if I will make this private and compile. Okay, let's see whether it would be inherited or not. So let's create an object of PQR and let's see, inherited from ABC, nothing is inherited. So that means private members cannot be inherited. Let's see protected. So compile. Okay, now let's create an object of it and let's see. So except is inherited. So if it is protected, it's inherited. If it is public, it's inherited. Let's check for default. Okay, compile. Now let's create an object of the class and now let's see inherited from ABC, except is inherited. So if we are in the same package, if we are inheriting in the same package, public, protected and default, they are inherited. Now let's go outside the package and create a class over here, XYZ2. Okay, and here in XYZ2 I am going to inherit that ABC class. Okay, so for that again I have to import, you know that. So if I will inherit here extends ABC, it will show me an error. We can pass the whole address as well. Okay, so sample.abc, sample.abc, now it won't be an error. So ABC is inherited now, and now let's create an object of XYZ2 and now let's see. So it's not inherited and it was default. I'll show you the code. The ABC member except method is actually default. So if we are outside the package, defaults are not accessible. Let's see protected and let's get back here and let's compile again and let's create an object. Okay, and let's see. So it's showing protected member also not inherited. Let's see. So if a protected member is there, if a default member is there, It can be inherited inside the same package. Public can be inherited anywhere. Private members, neither they can be inherited nor they can be accessed through the object. So these were the scopes of various members with different access specifiers. Now static memory allocation, dynamic memory allocations, what they are. So if we are creating an object, so we have to create an object with help of new keyword. So if you will see, okay, here I have inherited. Let's see where I have created an object. I think here I have created an object, and see, whenever you create an object, to take any space for the object, you have to use this new keyword. So whenever you are doing it, it's dynamic memory allocation. But if you are simply creating a primitive variable like this, so it will take space as soon as it is executed. No need to call any new keyword. So this is static memory allocation. Now we will see a static keyword along with data members. What happens when a static keyword is used with a data member, okay, and whether it is used with a member method. So what changes are there? So we are going to understand that. So few things that I don't need now, so I am deleting it. So this is just to explain you the access specifier and its scope. Okay, so now let's proceed to the topic static keyword. Okay, so if you remember, we have studied about static keyword first time in class 10th, and there we studied that if a static keyword is used with a data member, then it will share its copy with all the objects. Okay, so we know that static data member share its copy with all the objects. So today we will understand why it is necessary. So to explain you the need, I am creating a ticket counter. Okay, let it be ticket counter class. Now what this class is like, now it will be used to sell tickets. Okay, so there will be total 100 tickets which will be sold from different counters to different people. Okay, so let's see, there I am creating an integer data member ticket, integer ticket, and I am entering total number of tickets, let it be 100, and I am creating a method public void sell, and here I will accept number of tickets. Of course the number of tickets should be less than or equals to the total available tickets, right? So if number of tickets is greater than the ticket available, then we will simply print ticket not available. Okay, house full, we will simply print, or we will simply print ticket not available, not house full, ticket not available. Okay, else what we are going to do, else we are going to sell that ticket. So we are going to remove number of tickets from the available ticket, ticket minus equals to number of tickets. So that will update the ticket value, right? I hope you got it. Now let me create one more method to show available number of tickets. Okay, how much ticket is available. So of course this is a class with total number of tickets in the ticket variable, a sell method to sell the tickets, a show method to show the available tickets. So we can call this method, and anytime we can see the available number of tickets. So here I am printing value of ticket. Fine. So now what you will do, I am creating counter. So I am creating 3 counter. So this is counter 1. I am creating 3 counters to sell the ticket. Fine. So this is the class, and okay, and I am creating 3 counters. So now counter 2 and one more counter. So counter 3. So these are the 3 counters through which I will sell the ticket. So let's go to the first counter and click on sell, and I will ask 20 tickets. So it will of course sell that ticket. I have not shown any message over there, but let's see, let's show the available tickets. So available tickets is 80. Okay, now from the counter 2, let's sell 50 tickets. Okay, it's sold, and if we'll see, the available number of tickets should be 30 because 20 I have already purchased from counter 1. Now I purchased 50 from counter 2, so I already purchased 70, so available number of tickets should be 30. So let's see, okay, it's showing available number of tickets is 50. Still 50 tickets are available. I sold out of 100 tickets, I sold 70 tickets and still 50 tickets are available. Okay, let me go back to counter 3 and let me purchase 51 tickets now. Okay, no problem here also, and let me show. Okay, still 49 tickets are available. So see, I have already purchased 20 plus 50, that is 70, plus 51, that is 121. I have purchased 121 tickets out of 100 tickets and still 49 tickets are available. So that's amazing, right? Let's go back to counter 1 and see the available number of tickets. It's still 80, and some of the students would say, of course it would be there. Why? The reason is this ticket variable is a normal data member and each object will have its own copy. So what I'm telling you, each counter is selling from 100 tickets. So actually logically there are 300 tickets over here because I have used wrong logic. So what it should be like, I should have made this ticket variable as static. Okay, now what will happen? All the counters will have the same copy, right? So I'm creating counter 1, counter 2, let it be C1, C2 and C3, right? It would be shorter. So we became advanced now. Oh, I'm in too much hurry. Let it be C2 and now counter 3, C3. So let me sell first of all 10 tickets from each counter. So from counter 1 I am selling 10 tickets. From counter 2 I am selling 10 tickets. And from counter 3 I am selling 10 tickets. Now let's see the available tickets from counter 1. 70 tickets, and of course 10, 10, 10, 30 tickets I have purchased and 70 is available. Now let me purchase 50 tickets from here. Sell 50 tickets. And now let me try to purchase 21 tickets from here. So tickets not available. So I purchased 30 plus 50, 80 tickets. Now if we will see, the available tickets will be 20 only. And if you will see, you can see in, you can check it in any counter, it will be 20 only. So there are some situations like this where you need to create, where you need to share the same space of data member with all the objects, and there you will use static keyword. Okay, now when you will create static method, whenever you want to call any method of a class without creating any object. Okay, suppose you want to do that, so you will make a method as static. So if you are making a method as static, suppose I make this method static, right? So let's see what changes are there. Let me compile it, and as soon as I will right click on the ticket counter, I can see that show method. Why? Because show method is now static, I can call it directly with the class. I need not to create any object for it. So if any method is static, you can call directly from a class itself. Second thing, let me try to call this sell method inside the show method. Okay, let me try to call that sell. Okay, and you can see an error. Now why that error is, like if I will remove this static keyword now, error will be gone. Oh, sometimes I hate it. Okay, fine, the error is something in classical cannot be applied to given types. I have not given to any type. Let me close and open it again. So let me call this sell method again, and here in this sell method I am going to pass some value. Let it be 10, an integer value I can pass, and now you will see if I will compile, it will be an error. Why? Because I am accessing a non-static method inside a static method. So if I will make this this show method also non-static, then error will be gone. So keep in your mind, okay, if you are creating a static method, you cannot access any non-static method inside it. And similarly, you cannot access any non-static variable also. Suppose a variable a I have created with value 10 and I try to access that a here inside this static block, I cannot do that. It will be an error. But if I will try to access ticket over here, I can do that because ticket is static and a static method can be accessed inside a static block. You got that? There is no error. One more thing I want to tell you, if you are creating any non-static variable inside a static method, then no issue, then you can definitely use it. Okay. So if you are using static keyword with variable, static keyword with methods, these are the things you should keep in your mind. So we have seen static data members and static member methods. The last topic to discuss, we have already seen that topic actually, method overloading. The last topic was to discuss method overloading, but actually I have only shown you one of the way to change the signature. Let me show you two other ways through which you can change signature of a method. For example, I am creating a sample class, and here inside the sample class I will create few show methods. So all the method name, so all the methods that I will create, their name will be show only. So the only thing will be different is their signature. So I am going to create few methods with name show. Okay, and let me print something into it, right? So let me print show without keyword, show without parameter, sorry. Okay, and similarly I will create one more show method. Now that method I will define here itself. So if I am creating two different methods with same name inside the same class, I should change the signature. And I can change the signature by changing the number of parameter. This one you have already seen. Okay. So show method, show with one integer parameter. Okay. And let me call one more, let me create one more show method. Okay. So I want to create one more show method. I want to pass one more parameter to it. So what you can do, you can change the type of the parameter. Okay. So we have seen two ways actually. Now suppose I want to create one more show method but with two parameters. Actually two show methods with two parameters. And the parameters are like one integer, one double. One integer and one double. So if I will define it normally, it would be an error. You can see that. Compile, it would be an error. But you can do a signature change by changing the order of parameters. See here, in this show method I am calling integer and double, and in this show method I am calling double and integer. So you can see there are 5 different show methods over here, and signature of these methods are changed by changing number of parameters, by changing type of parameters, and by changing order of parameters. So let's see, we can call all of them and the output will depend. Okay, we haven't made changes in these, right? So this will be one integer, one int and one double, and this should be one double and one int, fine, and one int, fine. So let me call these methods. So first of all I have to create an object. Let me call the first show method. I have to pass a double into it, so 23.4. So show with one double. Okay, let me call this one. I am passing 1 and 2. So even in double I can pass 2 because it will be converted to 2.0, implicit type casting. So one integer, one double. If I will call this one and pass 1 1 or 1 2, one double, one integer. So see the execution of the method, which method it will execute, it depends whatsoever parameter or whatsoever signature you have given to the method. So you can have more than one method with same name, but their signature should be different, and there are 3 ways you can change the signature of a method: by changing number of parameters, by changing order of parameters, by changing type of parameters. So that was the last topic to be discussed in today's video lecture. So whatsoever we have discussed in our previous video lecture theoretically, today in our practical session we have seen each and everything. In the next class, in the next video lecture, we will discuss about constructors and whatsoever left in your Java revision part. Okay, and these video lectures will keep on moving or will keep on continuing up to your array. So in one of the video lecture I will explain you how much we have completed in your Sumita Arora and how much is coming actually up to chapter 6 or 7, I think up to chapter 7. I will show you that in Sumita Arora book in the next video lecture itself. Okay, so that was it. That was all that we want to discuss today. So I am Amit Kumar signing off on the behalf of Little Flower School, Rapti Nagar. That's it in this video lecture. Hope to meet you in the next video lecture. Till then, thank you and have a nice day.